Class, in this video we will take a look at the concept of local and global, meaning a variable or a constant can be local to a function or local to an if structure, local to a loop, or it can be global, meaning it is available to the whole program, right? So let me demonstrate how this is done. So what I'll do is I will call this one local and global variables, right? So here my example is that we will be sending say 3 scores to a function, and the function must tell us what is the average and also what is the largest score, right? So we'll be sending 3 scores to a function, and the function must tell us which one is the largest score and also what is the average of the scores. Now keep in mind a function can only return a value back, so we'll have to figure out a different way of getting 2 values back from the function. So I will start here with #include stream. Standard. Right, so here we have 3 scores, IT score 1, 2, 3. Okay, we get the 3 scores from the user. Right, so user gives us 3 scores. You could do input validation, I'll ignore that in this case. Right, so then what we do is we will let the function we're going to be designing, we call the function calc high average, meaning send us the highest and the average, and we will also have to find a way of finding the average back. Remember, the function can only return a value back. So what I'll do is I'll make another local variable here called highest, okay, and let the function return the highest back. So we'll write highest equal find high. This is the name of the function, right? Average. We send the 3 scores as arguments to the function find high average. Okay, then we write cout okay, and then pretty much let's say we come here. Now let's write the function or define the function find high average. So now remember, the function find high average returns a value back, so of the type int. So the return type of the function is int. So write int find high average, and it takes 3 arguments. So we'll call them intstr1, int. You must write the data type with each parameter, okay? Otherwise it's wrong. So you have 3 parameters, 1 for each of the arguments that are sent to this function. So first thing, you want to create a local variable here, int high, right? And what we do is we set high equal to str1, okay? Because you have 3 scores, we set it to the first one. Okay, so So then what we do is we use a simple logic here. If we also create another variable called double average. No, we don't need it here. So what I'll do is I'll leave average for a second. I want to first finish up this part. So here we write like this: if SCR2 is greater than high. Remember, we already said high to SCR1, so we're testing SCR2. Then high equal to SCR2. Okay. Then you can write another if here. Don't write else if, but write if. It would be another if. That would be if CR3 is greater than high, then high equal to CR3. Okay. So what this structure will do is we first set variable high to the first score that we got, SCR1. Okay. Then we check if the SCR2 is greater than high. If that is the case, then we assign that to high. Then we check again if SCR3 is greater than high, right? Because if SCR2 was higher than high, meaning that was greater than SCR1, it would be holding SCR2. But if SCR3 is greater than high, then doesn't matter what it was previously holding, right? It would be assigning we'll be assigning SCR3 to high, right? So this is a simple logic that will find out which is the largest score, right? Then we can say return high. Okay, right here, return high. So this takes care of one requirement that we have to find the highest. We also need to figure out a way by which this function can return the average also back, right? So first let's finish up this part, then I'll add the second part. Now we must here prototype, because this function is defined below the main function. So I'm just going to copy this one and paste it above the main function, and I'm just going to remove the curly brace and put a semicolon. Okay. So now what we can do is we can try and build this function. So I will call this one find high average.cpp. Right, so let's see, enter the 3 scores. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter 75, enter, 80, enter, and 95. It should send us back 95, right? So this is the highest score is 95. So that part is working correctly. Now, how about the average part? Remember, a function has a limitation. It can only return a single value back. So we can't ask this function to send us the average also, but calculate the average and send that back also. So what do? Well, there is a concept in programming called global variables. A global variable is a variable that is outside any function, meaning it is outside even the main function. So if we create a variable that is not in the main function and not in this function, meaning it is above here somewhere, then that variable is called global because it is global to the whole program, meaning it is visible or usable in the entire program. So what I can do is I can create a variable here, double average, right, and put a semicolon. Now this variable average can be used, this variable average here can be used in this entire main function right here up to here. Okay, it can also be used in the function find high average. Why? Because it is also visible here. So when a variable is created outside any function, it is visible or usable in every function. So now we can use this global variable average to first calculate the average and display it here. So what we'll do is before we return, because remember, once the function returns, this is game over. The function is done. It's basically shut down. So what we'll do is we'll usually say average here. We don't need to make another average here. We already have the global variable average, which is available in this function. So we write average equal SCR1 plus SCR2 plus SCR3. Now remember, all three are int. So when we divide by 3.0, not 3, because if we divide by 3, it will be integer division. Okay, so we divide by 3.0. So this is a double. It's a double literal. So the whole calculation becomes a double. Okay, so average will be holding the decimal part also. Now we can use the same variable average and display the average here. So we can write cout cout. So we overcame the limitation of functions, meaning functions can only return a single value back, but this time using a variable that was global in scope. So the scope of this variable is global. Why? Because it is not inside any function. Okay, it is outside both the main function and the find high average function, which means it is available in the main function, entire main function. It is also available in the entire find high average function. So this is the same exact variable. So this average is the same global variable right here, average, and this average is also the same global variable, average. So there's no conflict. Why? Because it doesn't matter. It's available in both, and there's no conflict because it is created outside the both the functions. Okay, so now we can run this program again and see if it does its job. So I'm going to build it one more time, and so I'm going to write 75, 80, and 95, and it says that the highest score is 95 and the average is 83, which sounds about right. Okay, so remember the concept of local and global is that something is local if it is created either inside a function or inside an if statement or inside a loop. So if now these variable here, this variable score 1, score 2, score 3 and highest, they are local to the function main. They are only visible or available in the function main. They cannot be used, meaning they're not. If you write SCORE1 here, it's wrong in this function. Why? There is no SCORE in this function. We have SCR1, SCR2, and SCR3. Right? Just like that, SCR1, SCR2, and SCR3 are local to the function find high average because they are inside this function. If you try to use SCR1 here, that would be wrong. So if you try to use score 1, score 2, score 3 in this function, that is wrong. If you try to use SCR1, SCR2, SCR3 in the main function, that is wrong. Why? Because they are local to their respective functions, meaning they are only visible or usable in the functions within which they are created. They cannot be used outside their, you can say, home functions or the functions to which they are local. Average, on the other hand, is a global variable. Why? Because it is outside the main function. It is also outside the find high average function. So average is visible or usable in this entire main function. It is also visible and usable in this entire function. A variable can be local to an if or a while. Just for example, if I say create a variable here, just as an example, say I write an if statement. We write if, say let me use highest. If highest greater than 90, okay, something like this, then we go like this, int x equal to 0, something like that, right? Like this. Now what happens is the variable x is local to this if, meaning its life begins the line it is created on and ends when the if ends. It is not available here. If I try to use x here, that would be wrong. Why? Because the scope of this variable x is inside this if structure. So a variable may not be just local to a function. It can be local to an if structure or even a loop. So if you start a loop, a while loop, and inside the loop you make a variable, that variable is local to that loop. For example, when we use, for example, the for loop, right, like this, for int I equal 0, I is less than, say, 10, I plus plus, and we start a curly brace like this, right? This I right here, it is local to this for loop. It is not available outside, it is not available outside this for loop over here. So if I write I here, that would be wrong. Why? Because the scope of I is the line it is created on, which is this loop header and this closing curly brace. So the concept of scope is very simple. If a variable is created inside any structure like a function, then it is local to the function, meaning it can only be used within that function. If it's local to an if structure, it is local, then it is visible only in that if structure. If it is created inside a loop, then it is only visible in that loop. Or if a variable is outside any structure, meaning is outside any function, any if, any while, then it is global. It is visible everywhere. It can be used everywhere, right? So concept of scope is very critical for writing the right programs, and we'll use this concept again in some of the programs that we will write after this, right? So please be careful with the scope of a variable.